and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about Kinder, written by Christopher Bailey and directed by Peter Grimwood. This is a four-part adventure, and it sees the introduction to one of the Fifth Doctor's greatest enemies, the Mara, a creature of dreams, and according to the writer, he's not really particularly evil per se, but it's more about desires and wants and stuff. I don't really understand it myself too much. Kinder isn't a very popular story, although time has been nice to it. When it originally came out, Doctor Who fans were really didn't like this story. At the time, the recently released Doctor Who Weekly, now known as Doctor Who Magazine, do a poll of every single Doctor Who story, and at the time, Kinder actually came either at the very bottom or it's like really low on the list. But time has been kind. In more recent polls, more specifically, I believe it's the 2016 one, Kinder actually came at number 60 in a list of, I believe it was 2,081 stories, making it the second most popular story of this season. So time has been kind to Kinder, and what's really funny about these particular magazines is, despite it being a very unpopular adventure, some of the characters were actually voted as some of Doctor Who fans' favourite one-off characters, which I find absolutely hilarious. So yeah, it's a very it has a bit of a reputation. No, I wouldn't say a bit of a reputation, but it does have a just a atmosphere about it. You know, a lot of people aren't too keen on this story, though. Like I said, people do seem to like it now, but not as like one of the best. People mainly just think, it's alright, it's kind of boring, but they do enjoy it. And maybe because I'm a sucker, because I constantly do this, especially when there's like unpopular Doctor Who stories. I really enjoyed this adventure. It shows a lot of great characters, a lot of great ideas, and I just like the overall look of the episode. So let's backtrack. In the last episode, we see Nessa faint, collapse to the floor. This story picks up moments after that. They mention that Nessa has fainted twice before, and so she is going to stay behind in the TARDIS, making this a Nessa-like story, as she doesn't appear throughout the story until right at the very end, when everybody's saying goodbye. So Nessa's not in this story. Now, it's important to note that the reason why she's not in this story, a lot of people think it was to give Sarah Sutton a break, or maybe she was ill, but the real reason is because at the time when Christopher Bailey wrote this story, Nessa wasn't a companion at that point. At least she wasn't confirmed to be. She wasn't originally supposed to be a companion, but John Nathan Turner liked Sarah Sutton and the character so much that he asked the writer of Keeper of Traken, could they keep her on to become a companion. So this was written before that idea was in mind, and so sadly, because of that, Sarah Sutton doesn't get anything to do, taken her literally out of the story. And that's why if you go on the TARDIS wiki, it doesn't actually list her as companion, it just lists her as featured. So bit of a shame, because I really like Nessa, but the story doesn't deal with her, it doesn't revolve around her. So the story really revolves around the Doctor, Adric, and Tegan wandering around in this jungle, and they find this weird musical instrument thing. And this shows what I really like about the Fifth Doctor. He just loves exploring. With the Fourth Doctor and the Third Doctor, which have been basically 10 years of that era, the entire 60s, Doctor Who became less about the adventure, a little less about exploring and more about fighting the monsters, fighting evil wherever you could. And don't get me wrong, those stories are good. They're well justified stories. But I personally like it when the Doctor just likes exploring. It's the reason why he travels. He travels because he wants to see the universe. And with Fourth Doomsday in this story really shows that the Doctor, Peter Davison's Doctor, just really likes just to have fun. In fact, when at the start of the story, when the Doctor's trying to fix something, he uses his sonic screwdriver, immobilizing it so he can't be able to use it. And when Adric asks him, wouldn't we need it? The Doctor's like, what we need it for? There's not going to be any trouble here. He doesn't expect danger, you know? That's, I think, what separates 5 from 4 and 3, is that he doesn't expect danger. And I think it's one of those cases, I believe, that a lot of his stories we don't see on screen. It's just that those stories, the ones that we don't hear of, just weren't as interesting as an audience viewer. Maybe like he goes to a planet, goes and has a drink and a coffee and leaves, like, you know, there's no adventure there. So we only, as an audience, only see the adventure ones. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. Tegan falls asleep here, and she gets her own little plot inside her dreams, whilst the Doctor and Adric get captured by, I say captured, they find a robot suit, and Adric accidentally closes the door, activating it. And this machine then takes the Doctor and Adric to its base, a dome, where these 3 people have been hiding out, and they're basically planning on colonizing this planet. And they were hoping to have help from the Kinder, the natives of this planet, that were like a tribal race, and they don't seem to speak. And one of the characters, Todd, she believes that they are telepathic in nature, and they wear these like bracelets which looks like a double helix DNA cell symbol. And we also get introduced to the captain and his second in command. And I really like these characters, these base characters. First you have Todd. She is the down-to-earth, reasonable one of the crew. We see basically this world through her eyes. She basically becomes the normal one in terms of us in this world. So we get a lot of her explaining things, and she's a scientist, so she talks to the Doctor about the science of the Kinder, and she also feels that the captain isn't very responsible, and that the second in command is going a bit whack job, to which the Doctor clearly sees. And she is like a very well developed character. But we also have the captain, and when we first see him, he is so over the top. He's basically like a drill sergeant. Like the second scene you see of him is him doing push-ups whilst talking about how everyone has opinions anymore. We should stop having opinions and just do stuff. And he's doing his fitness and stuff, and every time I see that, it cracks me up. But later on in the story, he leaves the dome to his second in command, who seems to be suffering from a nervous breakdown. He seems to be cracking up, and the second in command basically becomes like the main villain of the story. And he's a lot of fun to watch just go crazy. The actors who play them are just fantastic. I can't remember their names, but they are really, really fun to watch. They might not have the greatest characters per se. It's mainly for their over-the-top nature and just the pure enjoyment that you can see the actors are getting from it. Especially when the captain leaves the dome to the drill sergeant and to the second in command, and the second in command just can't take it. In fact, one of the cliffhangers, which is a pretty pants cliffhanger, one of my criticisms with this story is that the cliffhangers are just not that strong, and you can see that maybe they weren't planned to be the cliffhangers. But anyway, the cliffhanger to part one is after he's been let in charge, he puts a gun to the Doctor, Adric and Todd, and it's here that we discover that he has some sort of mental control over two captives that they have, two prisoners that they have, who seem to be taking him in control, and he says from the top of his lungs, "I've been left in charge here. I control all of you, all of life and death," and it goes ding-a-ding, 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 ding-a-ding. That's very that is very cool. That is very fun moment, but it's not a very strong cliffhanger, if I get to say that. And throughout the story, we get to see that he basically believes that all the plants are after him, all the weed and stuff. And later on, he tries to blow up the dome, and the Doctor and Adric are wandering around. And whilst this is happening, the captain, he's taking his suit to meet with the Kinders, to which he meets two of them, an old blind woman, Panna, played magnificently by the amazing Mary Morris. Probably one of my favourite bits is just Mary Morris just shouting at the Doctor, calling him an idiot. I really love those scenes. But anyway, they seem to have a box which can not control people, but basically enlightens them. And the girl gives the box to the captain, and he kind of gets changed by it. When he goes back into the base, he seems really positive and active, and is very passive. And he doesn't conflict with anyone, and he lets his second in command stay in charge once he's back. And he's always like smiling, just looking goofy, and is like, "I've got you a present. Go on, open it. And it just cracks me up. The guy who plays him is so into the role, and just you can see that the writers and the actors and the directors are just having so much fun. I really do enjoy it. But anyway, whilst this is all going on, that's basically the main plot, with Doctor and Adric trying to work out this dome and how is the Kinder being controlled and all that. But we also have like a sinister plot that builds up with Tegan as she gets trapped in a dream realm where she meets a bunch of people with snakes on their arms. And they basically explain that they basically want her to become part of them. A single entity known as the Mara, which later on the Doctor explains that he's also here, the Legends of the Mara, a creature that I don't think it's explained. It's basically the way the story explains it is that it's pure evil, and the actors who play the Mara play them as if like they're just pure evil, giggling and doing tensing up and all that. A fun fact: Christopher Bailey actually didn't like this element of the story. He didn't add in the evil lines or Jacqueline Fielding's. He didn't like Jacqueline Fielding's performance as the Mara, because the way he described it is the Mara is actually based off a Buddhist demon from Buddhist mythology, and in that mythology, demons aren't necessarily evil, but they're quick to persuasion. They're quick to what's the word I'm looking for? I can't remember the word. So yeah, this whole the Mara is just this pure evil demon thing was really added by John Nathan Turner and Peter Greywood. Peter Greywood's directing in this is absolutely fantastic. Every scene looks absolutely gorgeous and is shot very well. I can't really note much of him trying to show off his camera directing and styles, but it's very low key in terms of its directing style, and I think it lets the sets and the actors do so much more with the plot than any director could really do, because we have such a fantastic set. We have a lovely forestry, which is probably one of the best looking forest sets that we've had in a long time. Usually with Doctor Who, forest sets looked really threatening and just full of overgrowth and fungus and leaves, like purple and dark colours thing. But here everything is lovely and bright and colourful, and it's really, really green. With the Doctor even pointing out at one point it's too green for him. Then we got the scenes in the dome, which have the heavy emphasis on the scientific side, the science side. So we get a nice contrast of nature versus modernism, colonialism. A lot of people have pointed out that this story has a lot of similarities with Australian colonialism, so that's quite interesting. But the most impressive bits in terms of directing by far is the Tegan in the Mara's universe, in which she meets all these strange characters, and one of them, to basically torture her, makes two of her, kind of separates her personality into two beings, and they've got to figure out which one's real and which one's not. There's also a really great moment where it's basically like Ghostbusters, where he threatens, it's like, if you think it'll come true, and the two Tegans are like arguing with each other. It's like, don't think about it. Whatever you do, don't think about it. And they're like trying to like distract themselves, but then the Mara's like, it's too late. And then another Tegan turns up, and another, and another, and another, and another. So basically here it implies that the Mara's power, one of the Mara's powers, is that he can make people have split personality, per se. And when Tegan just can't get enough, she basically gives in, believing really it's a dream. And so when she wakes up, you got the snake tattoo on her arm, and something, her hair's all scruffy, and I can't really think what makeup they did on her face, but something about it really gives off a threatening premise. And Jacqueline Fielding as the Mara is just a beauty to watch. This easily shows her at her most versatile in terms of acting, and it really shows that she is a fantastic actress, well deserving of a companion. Jacqueline Fielding even said this is her favourite story, mainly because she gets to show off her acting range, with the bit with the two Tegans, and now her as the evil Tegan. But she's not evil Tegan for long, as she bumps into a Kinder who who the Mara takes the body of, because the Maras don't speak. The way they describe it is that they can't speak, and when the Mara takes over the body, the character speaks, and there's a legend that when one of the male kinders speak, then when they speak, then you have to obey them. That's the rule, basically. But that really doesn't play out, as Panda, with her small little girl companion, tried to fight against her and tries to work a way to basically bring the team onto their side, which doesn't really pan out. Back on the other side, Doctor and Adric, Adric plays for time. Another story in which Adric kind of works for the bad guys, although here it's clear that Adric's playing for time. So I think Adric's really good in this story. He's not as irritating as he is in most stories. Playing for time, helping the Doctor out, and convincing the baddies that he works for them, and figuring it out. The second in command, when given the box, doesn't believes it might be some sort of trap, so he puts the Doctor, Todd, and the captain in a jail cell and tells them to open the box, which is actually one of the cliffhangers. The Doctor opens it and Todd starts screaming. That's actually a pretty decent cliffhanger, I won't lie. That one I don't really mind too much. But when it's open and it's revealed in part 3, but it's like a Jack in the Box and everybody starts laughing, and the Doctor's like, the Kinder have a great sense of humour. But then they notice something, they look in the box and their eyes start glowing as Todd and the Doctor see visions of outside, and they see images of Mary Morris's character and the girl and the cave and everything. And so with the help of Adric on the outside, they escape, Doctor and Todd. And Todd basically becomes the sort of companion in this story, which I find really odd, because this era of Doctor Who is criticised for having too many companions, which I don't really feel holds up really, because the way this Doctor Who is ran at this point, with its 4-part stories and stuff, I don't think 3 companions is necessarily a bad thing. But even with Nessa out of the way, we still have 2 companions, but the Doctor still has a surrogate companion, which I find really odd. Adric, in this case, stays with the bad guy because he's basically gone mad, and he's set up a bomb that will destroy the entire dome with the Kinder with it. And he also builds like a tiny little city, like a game with the captain. And he starts calling out for his mommy, and he just basically goes absolutely nuts. And he sits on his chair like this as well, which I find really fun. Oh, I really hit my knees. And so when the Doctor, and then it's here then that the Doctor gets introduced to the Mara subplot, and that really comes into effect, and we get some imagery in which the Doctor and Todd gets taken to the village, and they meet a pantomime, a mime, which I find is a really fun scene in which basically they're very peaceful people, so to basically relieve people's tension, they have this character to basically take the fun out of, and they ask the Doctor to do a trick, and he does a hand trick, which Adric showed him earlier on in the story, which and just to see the Doctor's just so happy, he's just so content, really shows why Peter Davison is the Doctor. He might be like the closest to a Doctor to the core of the Doctor, but he's so into it that I just love it. Later on, Mary Morris's character, Panda, and the girl take him to the caves where she can show him a psychic projection as the Doctor describes it, it is both the past and the present in which they have a vision of the Mara basically taking over everyone except for the mine and all these clocks. And when time runs out on the clocks, all the people possessed by the Mara go and kill the mine, basically just slaughter him, which I think is a pretty dark concept for a classic Who story, or just the Doctor Who in general, coming to think about it. That sounds like something Big Finish would do. And the Doctor explains that is both the past and the future. It's something that repeats in time unless the Mara is stopped. The Mara basically enjoys this pain and suffering of your average people, and so it gets resurrected, it gets control, and it starts a cycle of just torturing people who don't come under its influence. And so the Doctor is in a rush to try and stop the Mara, whose plan is to gather the civilians, the Kinder, to try and attack the dome. I don't know if it's ever explained why the Mara wants to attack the dome, apart from just stirring up fear in the tribe. I can't see really what benefit it can. The way I take it out is that the Mara knows that there's explosives, and because it likes misery and destruction, it's hoping that the time bomb, shall we say, in this situation is the bomb, in which when it explodes will kill everybody. So the Doctor's going to try and stop the Mara from taking control. One bit I do think is pretty ridiculous is the cliffhanger in which after the Doctor sees the vision, Todd goes up to Mary Moss's character, and despite her just sitting up and literally just seconds just going up to see to check if she's okay, she tells the Doctor that she's dead, and that's our cliffhanger. That is a really weak cliffhanger, and when I was watching that, I did kind of go, I kind of did roll my eyes a bit at that particular scene. Another bit I don't like in this story is the Mara, to try and convince the rest of the people to stay strong. They kind of build like a replica of the robot that the dome people use, made out of wood, which clearly doesn't do anything. And if these Kinder creatures are supposed to be as intelligent as the Doctor proclaims, I find this conviction to be really, really dumb. Later on, Adric, trying to escape from the dome, goes into this mech suit, only because it's controlled by mental action. Adric has very little control because he's never used these before, and he starts fearing and panicking, and when it comes up to the Kinder, it starts attacking people. The Doctor quickly soon calms him down, and the Mara gets away, and the Doctor kind of convinces that the Mara convinces the civilians that the Mara is evil. The Doctor quickly then tries to defuse the bomb. He goes back to solve that plot. We get some really fun scenes in which the second command does like a peekaboo kind of Jack in the Box moment, and then he's angry that nobody is surprised, and it's like, you spoilt my surprise, I wasn't ready. I really like that moment, and soon the Doctor learns that before his breakdown, this character was controlling the Mara by mirrors, because they believe that it captures the soul. But the Doctor soon smashes that, and these Kinder are then freed, and the bomb gets deactivated. Todd convinces the character to open the box, to which it heals his mind, convincing it. During this scene, Adric and Nessa are in a room outside, kind of feeling helpless for themselves. And I do like this scene up until Adric suddenly criticises Tegan for basically it's all her fault that he says. That I think was a really dick move on Adric's part. It shows that Adric's a very unlikable character. Don't get me wrong, stuff like this, like a character flaw, is an important part of a character. But what fails Adric in here is that he never learns from it. He never is like, he doesn't apologise to Tegan at the end, or has to learn, or has to struggle with his miscontent of Tegan or anything. But it does have a great moment for Jacqueline Fielding, in which he can just get really angry at Adric again. Might be a bit of a repeat of her scene in Forge of Doomsday, but it still works here, I think. It still works that she's like, she could see she really wants to punch Adric in the face like the fans do at the time. And so the Doctor convinces then the rest of the Kinder people to defeat the Mara, because he kind of figures out this whole thing with the mirrors, and that the civilization believes that the mirrors have something to do with the soul. And so what they're going to do is they're going to trap the Mara in with these mirrors, and it traps it, and it leaves the body of the young man, and they drag his body out, and we get a final confrontation where the Mara's true form comes out. Now, Peter Greenwood was actually very critical of this scene because he wanted to have the effect done in a very different way, but because of time schedule, he couldn't have what he wanted, so he had to get a giant snake puppet that was already used for a previous BBC production, and he wasn't really a fan. I personally don't mind it. For 1982, I think it actually looks really good. Though, like, the face doesn't move, and you can clearly, it's just like a puppet on a string, and they're just doing that basically without much movement. But if you own it on DVD, which sadly I don't have, you can actually watch a updated effect where they redo this with CGI, and I highly recommend it because it does look really good, and it doesn't feel like a cheap straight to DVD thing. It generally feels like a new Who special effect, and it works. Surprisingly, it works well. Mix it in with the classic Doctor Who era, and because it's trapped in a mirrors, it retreats back to its own universe, and that's the end of the story basically. Todd explains that they're going to tell the people from their home planet that this planet isn't worth colonizing. However, the captain and the second in command decide to stay because it's very peaceful. It's like paradise, they say. But Todd says something about it's too green for her, and she wants to go back home. And when the Doctor said waving goodbye, now with Nessa back, it's like, how are you feeling? I'm perfectly well. Back on to the next adventure. The last line is actually the Doctor saying that this planet is too green for him as well, basically implying that he kind of likes the bit of the danger. He likes exploring, he likes having fun. This story basically shows the Fifth Doctor just wants to explore civilizations and the universe, but he still has a thrill out of fighting baddies and kicking ass, basically. And so you go, there's Kinder. Overall, I really enjoyed this story. I like everything to do with the Mara, pretty much. I like that we don't really get a great explanation for it, and the majority of the story, it's kind of dormant. It's kind of like the B plot with Tegan. And only until the very end does it become a massive plot point and we get this whole end of the world bit. It makes the Mara feel much more like a mythical being that's not to be taken lightly. But outside of that, with the rest of the plot, I also really enjoy the culture of the Kinder, and I like the characters in the dome, especially the characters in the dome. I find it a lot of fun, and the Doctor, Adric, and Tegan get a lot to do and have a lot of fun in this adventure. But Nessa's not in it. Like I said, it was very panned when it first came out, but time has been good to it. So I recommend you watch it and give it your own opinion, and I hope you all enjoy it. So now join me next time where the Doctor arrives in I believe it's 1666 with the Black Death. Oh no, it's the Fire of London. It's one of those two. But anyway, I can't think of much to talk about the rest of the story. So join me next time for The Visitation. See you next time on The Doctor Marathon. Ta-ra.